What about producing Dolly Parton?
Yeah, what a joy.
What is that like?
God, what a joy that was. Well, man, it was her last album for RCA, and Joe Galante had called me up and he said, I want you to produce Dolly. It's the last album that we're going to have with her. And I said, well, of course. So now, here's the crazy thing. My father, for a short while, was married to Stella Parton.
Okay.
Okay. So I had met Dolly at some family reunion or something of the Partons, and I was with my dad at the time. And my dad had worked with Stella, recording Stella. Excuse me, not Stella, recording Dolly at RCA. Because when I was 13 years old, Chet Atkins, I was out in LA working with my father on some background vocal stuff, and he convinced my father to move to Nashville, and that's how we wound up in Nashville. And through that, then it was all the artists on RCA, and so Dolly Parton, my father had worked with Dolly. So to get to work with an artist that my father had worked with, of such an iconic artist, that in itself was something I had never done. Plus, Dolly is Dolly. And I tell you right now, she's everything you want her to be, man, all the time. It's just the greatest thing. So anyway, so I'm going to, so she sends me a cassette. I get a cassette of I think it was 9 or 10 of her songs. Okay. And I listened to them and I liked them. I didn't like them all. Some of them I felt were really long, and so I wanted to get a mixture of some outside songs besides some of her songs. And, so I went out to she had an apartment out in L.A. up in the Hollywood Hills, and so I went out there. Yeah, this is an embarrassing story to tell, but anyways, cassette players were pretty new, and I had these songs on a cassette. Okay, well, the only cassette player she had was in her bedroom, and I'm just getting with her for the very first time, right, to listen to these songs. So she said, well, she said, well, and I had the cassette. She said, oh, well, my cassette player is in the bedroom, and it's one of those big boxes that was sitting on a dresser, right? So she jumps up on the bed and she pats the side of the bed. She says, sit here next to me on the bed, and we'll listen to these cassettes, right? So I'm up there, and she's so funny, you know how she is, and her mind is so quick, and my heart's like, here we are. I can't, I'm embarrassed. I'm sitting on Dolly's bed. We're going to listen to these songs. And she makes some comment to me about, imagine how many guys would like to be in the bed with me, right? And I'm like, so I'm turning red as a beet. I'm probably turning red now even telling this story, So we listened to these songs, and she picked the ones that she liked, and I picked some of hers that I liked. And then I only saw her about 3 or 4 times. And then I went back to Nashville. She came, we actually cut the tracks for their Real Love album with the duet with Kenny Rogers, Real Love, in Los Angeles. And I believe it's the very first digital recording in country music ever. Now, Chuck Ainley and I get into this argument. He's one of my best pals. We get in this argument. And I said, no, Chuck, I did this before you did whatever it was you did. So, and I didn't get permission from the label or anything. I was a stinker. I did whatever I felt I needed to do to make the hit, So we did it, I think, the very first digital album. We recorded the tracks there. And then she came in and I think there was 4 of her vocals that we didn't even re-sing. There was no need. Her track vocal was everything you could ever want it to be. So she came in and for 2 days in a row and sang the other songs, and it was 1 or 2 takes. I mean, it was like nothing. She's just incredible. So we did this record. So here's the thing now, and this is what y'all want to hear about Dolly. Okay. We're going to go to lunch and take a break, all right? And I said to her, she was coming in the studio here the day before, the next day we're going to work, and I said, listen, because she always is dressed like she's going to be on stage. And so I said, if you want to be chill, you can, because there's nobody going to be here. I mean, it's the engineer, and me and you, and to get these vocals. So if you just want to relax and just kind of relax it. And she said, oh, no. She said, I'm Dolly, and my fans expect me to be Dolly. And so when she comes to the studio, she could be on stage. All right, so we're working for a little while, and we decided we're going to take a lunch break, right? And so I said, well, she said, what's around here? And so it turns out there was this Mexican restaurant about a block away, right? And I said, okay, let's go there. I'll get the car and we'll drive over there. She said, oh, no, we'll just walk there, right? So we're walking down I think it was Lancashire Boulevard out there in the Valley in Los Angeles with Dolly down the sidewalk looking like Dolly. And the cars are going by. They're slowing down because they're looking because they know, my God, it's Dolly walking down the sidewalk, right? And we walk into this restaurant and we had lunch. And I'll tell you what was the coolest thing that I learned so much from her. And that is when she talks to people, it doesn't matter. There's no status in life of where you are. Like, are you the president? Are you this? It doesn't matter. If it's the busboy or the owner, Dolly talks to everybody the same. There's no,
Right.
One's more important than the other. And she really blew me away. And the few little times that I was around her, it was just impressions and things that I could never forget.
I love the stories I hear about Dolly as someone who's never met her, but just a fan of hers and think that she's a cultural icon. But
Yeah.
to your point, I've read an article that said she told people she never goes to bed without full makeup on because you never know when an earthquake might hit.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, honestly, she's just, of course, she's just, and her sense of humor is incredible. She's
Yeah.
so quick, so brilliant.
And standing her ground when she knows what her worth is.
Yes.
She stood
Yeah.
up to Elvis, the Colonel.
Yeah.
She wouldn't let Colonel cut "I Will Always Love You."
Oh, wow. Because they wanted half.
They
of
wanted
it.
half.
Yeah.
And they told her the night
Yeah.
before, and she said, "I can't do it."
Yeah.
Y'all can't have
good
it.
for her. I mean, the Colonel was notorious for that.
Yeah.
Elvis was so huge that everybody would say, yeah,
Thanks for watching this clip of Country Drive. To see more in the future, please hit like and subscribe.